I want to thank you for the warm welcome and for the opportunity to lead this outstanding university. And I'm even more excited to be here today than I was when I arrived 6 months ago. Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. Now, it's been a whirlwind 6 months, and it's been complete with experiences that some of which I didn't even know I was missing, like wading in a cranberry marsh and worrying about not falling in, hiking through apple and cherry orchards at our ag research station, seeing extension hard at work with 4-H at the state fair, even holding my very first piglet at a county fair, not to mention learning to jump around and helping to set an NCAA record for the most fans at a women's volleyball game. In fact, we are the only university in the country to have had more than 8,200 spectators at 3 different women's sports in the same season: basketball, volleyball, and just last weekend, hockey. And another record, our 850 student athletes achieved the highest GPA in our history last year. But best of all, over these first 6 months, has been meeting extraordinary people, both on and off this campus, who are working to make our communities and our state stronger and better. My core message today is that UW-Madison is an extraordinary place, but we can't take that excellence for granted. It needs to be protected and nurtured, not only for the good of the university, but for the good of our great state of Wisconsin. At the same time, if we can work together in effective partnership, I'm confident that we can not only maintain our great strengths, but we and the entire UW system can be better tomorrow than we are today. Now, I'm going to start with a few words about some of our many existing strengths. Last year was a big year for us. We welcomed the largest and most racially diverse freshman class in our history. And we conferred one of the largest numbers of degrees in our history, more than 11,000 in all. We just received final numbers for our total applicants for this next year's freshman class, and we've again set a record. We've received more than 60,000 applicants for the 8,100 spots. Now, clearly, both here in the state of Wisconsin and all across the country, many young people and their families are recognizing that exciting things are happening here at Wisconsin. I'm also happy to say that 18,000 of our freshman applicants identify as students of color, and that's an increase of over 18% from just the year before. And over the past 4 years, we've more than doubled the number of undergraduates of color enrolled on this campus, and I hope to see us continue to build on that. Now, at the same time that we're serving more students than ever, we're also improving our student outcomes. We are, in fact, the number 6 public university in the country for our 6-year graduation rate. Nearly 90% of our undergrads complete their degrees in 6 years. The national average for public universities is around 66%, just as a comparison. And our average time to degree statistic is down again. Our average is now 3.85 calendar years, 6 weeks shy of 4 years. I don't know that that can go too much lower. We don't want that to go asymptotically towards 0. We're there to educate our students, but this is a very impressive statistic. In addition, more than 60% of our undergrads now graduate with 0 student debt, and statewide that number is about 37%. We're also bringing a UW-Madison degree within reach for more Wisconsin families, thanks to Bucky's tuition promise. And we're going to improve on that, so stay tuned for an announcement at the end of my remarks today. A research study put out last fall put us among the very top 5 producers of tenure-track faculty in the entire United States, along with Berkeley, Harvard, Michigan, and Stanford. So I'd say we are in pretty good company. And more than 1 in 8 sitting faculty in the US has a PhD from one of these 5 institutions. And so that speaks to our profound influence on the cycle of knowledge and the impact that we have on the country and across the globe. And while we're sending outstanding future faculty out into the world, we're also welcoming outstanding new faculty to Madison. Last year, we brought in 168 accomplished new faculty members, the second highest number in more than a decade. And you can see the stats on that slide. I want to call out one of our recent hires, Professor Monica Kim. She joined our history department in 2020 and then won a 2022 MacArthur Fellowship, often known as the Genius Grants. She's our third MacArthur winner in just the past 3 years, and it's exciting to see her impressive historical work on untold aspects of international and diplomatic history receive such acclaim and attention. Now, I hope everyone in this room already knows that we are comfortably in the top 10 US universities for total research expenditures, but we aim to grow that further. Now, we've had way too many research accomplishments for me to name today, but I'm going to highlight just one that I do think is a kind of model for the forms of expansive partnerships that I'd like to see more of. Panther. This stands for Physics-Based Neutralization of Threats to Tissues and Organs, and recently won a $10 million grant from the Department of Defense for their work to develop better ways of detecting and preventing traumatic brain injuries. I'm singling them out because they're more than a cross-disciplinary project, though they're certainly that. Panther is an entire innovation ecosystem that involves us along with other universities, as well as multiple partners from government and industry. And I think that that kind of partnership and project keeps us and positions us to be on the leading edge of discovery. There's many other areas where we've reached very high levels of excellence this year alone, and to mention just a few, the Carbone Cancer Center. It's the only national cancer institute in our state, and it just got renewed by the NIH with a grade of outstanding, putting it in the top 10 to 20% of national cancer institute centers in the entire country. Our Institute for Research on Poverty has won major grant funding to study the relationship between income and a child's brain development. And the Weizmann Center recently published some groundbreaking research that's moving us closer to understanding what causes Down syndrome. Now, we've also had an outstanding year in public service. Teddy Roosevelt once wrote, and I'm quoting, "In no other state in the Union has any university done the same work for the community that's been done in Wisconsin." Now, in full disclosure, I think he was running for re-election at the time he made that quote, but that doesn't mean it's not true. As one example, our students and faculty are working through our University program that asks local leaders, what are the problems you tackle tomorrow if you could, if you had a little more time and a little more staff, but you just can't quite get to? And then our faculty and our students work to do exactly that. The program's been around 8 years. And it's a huge success. I've heard from county administrators and mayors about what powerful, concrete help this program offers for their needs and thinking and understanding. And I've heard from students and faculty about just how transformative it can be for them. It's also a wonderful example of the power of system-wide partnerships. Over the years that University has existed, we've worked with 5 other system schools, River Falls, Eau Claire, Milwaukee, Green Bay, and Parkside, on these projects at different times. Our Teacher Pledge is another great example. It's an innovative model for responding to the state's teacher shortage here in Wisconsin. At this point, funded entirely by gifts from friends and alumni to our School of Education. It covers in-state tuition, fees, and licensing expenses for new graduates who commit to work here in a Wisconsin school for 3 to 4 years post-graduation. We now have 530 pledged students and graduates, 200 of whom are already teaching in school districts across Wisconsin. It's a powerful pilot that shows how investment and access to resources can enhance our ability to meet the state's workforce needs, though to make it permanent would likely require some support from the state. Now, our biggest statewide footprint for outreach is, of course, the Division of Extension, which has put rocket boosters under our statewide engagement since we brought them back to UW-Madison 5 years ago. Their daily presence in all 72 counties is connecting our researchers in a much more direct way to some of the biggest problems our state is facing. Issues like opioid addiction, water contamination, health disparities. Extension is a serious bridge between university research and the critical work happening on the ground in communities, making the work from both sides stronger, better, and more impactful. It really is the very best of the Wisconsin idea, and I think there's even more that we can dig in and do there. Now, so many of the successes I've just mentioned were made possible in significant part by Chancellor Emerita Rebecca Blank. And so I want to take a moment to just name her and thank her for the wisdom she's shared with all of us and with me, and for her absolutely tireless work on behalf of this great university for 9 years. Wait, don't clap quite yet, but thank you. I just want to make sure you all saw the announcement about the Rebecca M. Blank Center for Campus History. I'm really pleased that we can celebrate and honor Chancellor Blank in this way, especially given her critical role in creating the Public History Project. Now, let's give her a very big round of applause. I hope you've seen that this university is thriving in a great many ways. We have a lot to be proud of. We also need to look in a clear-eyed way at obstacles and challenges that we need to overcome if we are to maintain and build on this excellence. There are a number of challenges, but I'm going to focus today on these 5. You can read them here, and I'm going to be saying a few words about each. So the first obstacle, creating a physical infrastructure to support ongoing excellence. We don't need the very fanciest buildings out there, but we simply can't be excellent without well-designed modern spaces that support educational and research needs. Many of you heard last night at the chemistry building, both what this new building is permitting in terms of teaching, and how we're not able to expand our research in key areas like pharmaceuticals because of poor ventilation and fire safety issues in our labs. So although we do have some terrific facilities and some important plans around others, we also have ongoing and significant challenges in this area, both around STEM fields and well beyond. To give you a sense of the STEM-related issues, 20 years ago, fewer than a third of our graduates were enrolled in STEM majors, and today nearly half are. Last year's grads included record high numbers of bachelor degrees in high-needs fields, such as computer engineering and nursing. Now, on the one hand, this is great news. Wisconsin employers need graduates with these skills. On the other hand, these areas are intensive, both in terms of physical infrastructure needs and faculty and staff support. This means we need to invest more in high-tech classrooms and research labs, as well as other kinds of infrastructure and people to support learning and excellence. Now, over the last 20 years, with the help of both the state and our donors, and with the support of the system, we've invested a little over $500 million in facilities projects that impact or enable our STEM programs. And this includes new facilities for chemistry, like what many of you saw last night, as well as the School for Veterinary Medicine, where the project is in progress. And we're on track, we hope, to invest about another $1 billion in the next several years in a set of plans currently in design, or like our computer and data and information science building, about to start construction. Now, those sound like really big numbers and investments worth celebrating, and they are. However, if you look at many of our peers, we're actually running behind. Some of you have seen this slide. Our facilities units contracts with a consulting firm that owns the largest verified database of university facilities information, and their reporting helps to give us insight on how we compare to other institutions. So this slide shows our average capital reinvestment compared to our goal over a 5-year period in terms of academic and research space. And you can see that we're quite substantially behind nearly all of our Big Ten peers. and way, way behind a number of private universities who are also our competition for top faculty members. Their data also shows us that over the last 10 years, our total capital reinvestment has been roughly half of what our peers have been investing in terms of gross square footage for academic and research space. For every $3 we invested, they, on average, invested $6. And our current estimate for deferred maintenance alone is $2.1 billion and growing. And that's escalated from $1.5 billion just 4 years ago. So we badly need to keep investing in facilities. Now, the College of Engineering, as I hope almost everybody in this room already knows, is one place where we're hoping to do just that. Engineering badly needs a new building, which we hope will be funded jointly by the state and by philanthropy, and which, when built, will open up significantly more spots for students at a time when engineers are in high demand here in our state. Thank you to President Rothman and to the Regents for putting this facility at the top of the priority list of major projects. And thanks to all of you for your support. I've appreciated very much the numerous conversations I've had at this point with legislators, industry leaders, and others about this facility. And I look forward to working with the Assembly, the Senate, our governor, the Regents, the system, and the Department of Administration to get this vital project moving forward and completed. Now, as fast as demand for engineering is growing, computer science on our campus has been growing even faster. A roughly 700% increase in undergraduate majors in just the last decade, and it's now our #1 undergraduate major. No other department has grown so much so quickly. And that's partly because of the huge demand among both students and employers. And it's partly because, and I'm proud of this, we make computer science an available area of study to all who choose to pursue it, rather than a program with limited admissions, which is what many of our peer schools do. Now, I'm happy to tell you that fundraising for the new building is at this point 90% complete. There is still that 10%, so, if any of you want to talk, let me know. But we now have everything staged to start digging, and if all goes according to plan, we'll open that building in the spring of 2025. Now, keeping up with demand in these areas also requires us to recruit new faculty. And this is phenomenally difficult in computer science. We're competing with private employers who often pay truly 4 to 5 times what we do. And it's also an extremely competitive market among strong university programs, because we're obviously not the only school out there trying to grow computer science. The good news, we've netted 24 new faculty in computer, data, and information sciences since 2019, thanks to our top-ranked departments and our excellent reputation and the overall strengths of our institution. But even with that, we have the smallest faculty of any of the top programs in public universities in computer science, and so we have to grow further to meet the demands of our student, the state, and our economy. Now, all of our growth is not in STEM, and nor should it be. We have pressing needs in the arts, which are critical to human flourishing and to helping us find and express meaning. I'm proud of our strengths in these areas. But from a facilities perspective, we have an urgent need for a pathway out of our obsolete humanities building for both the School of Music and the art department. The humanities building, which some call a gem of brutalist architecture, others just say it's brutal, it needs $70 million in immediate repairs. And even with that, it wouldn't come close to providing the kind of learning environment that we would wish for our students. So we need to be able to cement plans for a new home for music and for art. And if we're able to do that, that will also let us envision exciting possibilities for that prime campus spot that the humanities building currently occupies. Unfortunately, it doesn't stop there. We have numerous campus buildings beyond humanities that serve critical academic needs that are aging and are in clear need of maintenance, renovation, or replacement. I could start to list them, but that would get a little bit depressing. So I'm not going to, but if any of you would like further detail on which ones are at the top of our list after the ones I've mentioned, I would be happy to provide that. Now, one very bright spot is Irving and Dorothy Levy Hall. It's in the design phase, and when it's done, it's going to permit us to move the history department as well as the Center for Jewish Studies out of the humanities building and also bring together under one roof 6 others letters and science departments that are now spread out over campus, and it will also have some strong teaching spaces. This is a very long-awaited project. In fact, the last time we built a new academic building for humanities departments was in the College of Letters and Science was 50 years ago. Moving on to obstacle number 2, helping our students thrive as learners, community members, and people. Look, there's no doubt it's been a rough few years all around, especially given the many challenges produced by the pandemic, from learning loss to isolation, to social isolation, that is, to the pressures produced by ubiquitous social media in our students' lives. To be truly excellent in this moment, we have to be intentional about working in new ways to help students thrive, not just as learners and not just as learners. This means providing not only modern spaces for learning, it means not only providing impactful educational opportunities and superb teaching, it also means investment. We need those things, to be clear, but it also means investment in high-quality academic support services, such as advising and tutoring, ready access to mental health services, and spaces where students, especially students who might not always feel like they're flourishing, can come together in community. It also means helping our students develop the tools to engage across difference, as President Rothman mentioned, and I'll say more about that in just a few minutes. Now, we conducted 3 separate campus climate surveys last year for faculty, staff, and students, and we learned a lot from those. The great majority of people in our community, whether faculty, staff, or students, feel respected, supported, and welcomed here. But these surveys also show that that is less true for groups that have been historically underrepresented and marginalized on our campus. Those groups rate the campus climate less highly than their peers. Not long ago, one of our students described her experience in an upper-level math class as feeling like, and I'm quoting, a fly in the milk. It's sometimes hard to feel like you fit in a place where you stand out. And one of the things that we hear from our students is, please hire more people who look like me. Now, I want to say, you can certainly connect with and learn effectively from people very different from yourself. And it's important to emphasize that too. But there's also no doubt that when you see people in positions of authority, like your professors, who seem more like you and more relatable to you, that can dramatically enhance your own sense of both possibility and belonging. Now, I recently received some impressive new numbers, and you can see the details on this slide. We now do have our highest ever number and percentage of women faculty, faculty of color, and faculty of color from underrepresented groups. And we've shared elsewhere and earlier the numbers in our freshman class, which is also the most racially diverse in our history, as I mentioned at the outset. I'm proud of the progress we're making. At the same time, I also recognize that some aspects of our current approach may be impacted by the upcoming Supreme Court decisions involving race-conscious admissions at Harvard and UNC. The tools in our toolbox may partly need to change, but diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging will remain top priorities. I also want to be clear about what diversity means. To be an outstanding public university, we need diversity of all kinds. Racial and ethnic, absolutely. First generation, yes. Gender identity, sexual orientation, also. Religious diversity, we need that too. Rural and urban, you bet. And political and viewpoint diversity, that is also important. These all matter. And creating a sense of belonging and inclusion across all of these kinds of difference needs to be an ongoing priority and is also sometimes a challenge. A third obstacle or challenge is that we need to keep bringing outstanding students into Wisconsin and doing all we can to keep top students in the state. As I think everyone in this room knows, Wisconsin's demographics are changing. And for some of our system campuses, that's been extremely challenging. We face a shrinking pool of college-age students in this state. You can see where the stripy lines, and that means that it's expected to be 5% lower, or that it's already begun. As we face that shrinking pool, UW-Madison can bring a couple of things to the table. First, we can keep more top Wisconsin students in Wisconsin. Now, these percentage shifts may not look like a big increase, but it's the result of a lot of efforts by our admissions team, given the smaller number of high school graduates in the state. So a higher percentage of Wisconsin students are enrolling at UW-Madison following their graduation than before. I think it's also working to our advantage that for a number of students post-COVID, they want to have a kind of big school experience of the kind that we can provide. Though it's also certainly true, that's not for everyone. Now, let me be clear. We also want to support the success of our sister schools and the comprehensives as well. But I also need to name that much of the time, we aren't competing with the other system schools for most of these students, but rather with out-of-state students like Minnesota and Michigan and many others, as well as private institutions all across the country. Second, and critically, UW-Madison can draw talent into this state in significant numbers. We have 22,000 undergraduate and graduate students from out of state on our campus right now. And just this morning at the Education Committee, we heard about some of the international students' experiences here. Now, of course, our graduates don't all stay here, but the number who are staying is growing. This is 2016 compared to 2022. And remember, we've also seen overall student population growth over this period as well. Among students who graduated in the last academic year and started working, 48% reported that they're working in Wisconsin, up from 37% just 5 years ago. For our in-state students, that number is 62% versus 48% 5 years ago. And among out-of-staters, 22% reported they're employed here, and that's up from 17% 5 years ago. I think we can improve on those numbers still further. If we can work with employers to create more great opportunities in the workforce and opportunities while students are here with us that anchor them here, more of our grads from both in-state and out-of-state will stay. The next obstacle. I'm turning now to challenges in research. As you know, UW-Madison is a research powerhouse, and our discoveries are changing lives in Wisconsin and around the world. In overall research expenditures, we rank number 8 nationally, and this is very strong, but it's also down from number 4 10 years ago. Now, I'm a competitive person, so I have to say I see UCLA there, and it would be nice to leapfrog them, though that is not the main reason I want to address this important issue. And I also want to be clear that we've done a good job of increasing our research expenditures over this period. Just this past year, they rose by $16 million, or 1.2% in 2021, despite the pandemic. But in that same moment, our national competitors grew by an average of 4%. So to move up this chart, we don't just need to go up in total research expenditures. We need to go up faster than some of the peers with whom we're competing. And so that makes it challenging, especially given what I described earlier about infrastructure expenses and where we stand. We have as a goal, as part of the system strategic plan, to get back to number 6. And that is, I think, doable. But even though it may not look like much, it's ambitious, given what I've just described. It will mean working in some different ways and investing further in our research infrastructure. It also means we need to expand our industry partnerships. I told you that we currently rank number 8 in research expenditures overall. However, in industry partnerships in R&D, we rank 52nd. So this is an area where we have significant opportunity, though I'm happy to say we are moving in the right direction. In 2021, we increased our industry R&D expenditures by 6.5%, while nationwide, industry expenditures fell by 1.3%. So there, we did have relative gains. But to do more here and to do better, we need to look closely at how to work more effectively with industry in a variety of ways. And this is a place where we need to engage with some internal culture change as well. while also keeping our mission as a public university as our North Star when we evaluate and think about potential projects and partnerships. We also need to make the case for increased state investment and additional flexibilities that would let us operate with greater efficiency and more effectively. Workforce shortages are predicted to grow, and we all know that there's also a very large state surplus, currently estimated around $7.1 billion. And so this is a strong moment to invest in education, and we are an excellent investment. UW-Madison now supports 1 out of every 13 jobs in this state, and our total economic impact on Wisconsin is estimated at nearly $31 billion a year. According to one study, for every dollar of state money invested in the university, we return $26.73, which is, let's face it, slightly weirdly precise, but still, into the Wisconsin economy. That's an eye-popping return. And the bottom line is that we are an incredibly low-risk and high-value investment in Wisconsin's future. This slide shows something that I wanted to share with you. We were recognized nationally for our contribution to the state 3 months ago. We were one of 9 universities in the country designated in this past year as an Innovation and Economic Prosperity University by the APLU. And that's for the ways that we do engage and contribute to the economy of our communities and our state. Now, we've been in a position to invest and grow in the past several years, thanks both to tremendous investments by our alumni and friends in a record-breaking capital campaign, and thanks to some effective revenue-building opportunities that have protected us from some strong headwinds, and which some of you who were in the Budget and Finance Committee earlier heard in more detail. Those resources that we've been able to grow are vital. They allow us to carry out our mission to transform lives through education and research, and we will keep doing our part to create resources for the future. But at this point, we've also pulled the most available and likely levers to create new revenue sources. And we'll need to keep doing that. But the challenge is also going to be to provide additional pathways. To name just one possibility, we might be able to redevelop selected parcels of land in ways that could simultaneously meet critical needs that we have, including, for example, for collaborative spaces for students, faculty, and research partners from industry, while also potentially using parts of those lands for new revenue streams. There are exciting possibilities here, but our future success depends and will depend on effective partnership. The state has made deep investments in this university over the past 175 years. But in recent years, we've fallen behind our peers. We cannot, and we will not, and we do not look to the state to solve all of our challenges. At the same time, we unquestionably need ongoing and substantial state investment in order to thrive, as well as additional flexibility to permit us to seize opportunities. In terms of state support, here's what's happened over the last 10 years in terms of investments in higher ed. Many, indeed most states, have outpaced us. And frozen in-state tuition has made it still more difficult for us to maintain our excellence. Add to that another significant challenge. We are the only flagship university in the country that does not have the ability to borrow money without specific legislative approval to do so in each instance. This means that every time we do building renovations or construction, unless it's funded entirely by gifts or grants, we need to go through multiple layers of approval at the other end of State Street, even if all we are hoping to do is, in effect, borrow funds which we will repay comfortably from our own revenues. This system is costing us. It reduces our opportunities to improve our facilities, and it adds delays that in turn lead to higher construction costs. It lets us contribute less to the local economy, too, by slowing down these kinds of projects that have benefits for employment beyond the university. So we badly need to keep trying to make some form of revenue bonding authority possible. And I appreciate the support of the Regents and President Rothman as we work together to achieve this. And I appreciate, too, that this has come up several times today and that several Regents have expressed their very strong support. Now, Governor Evers is scheduled to deliver his budget message 6 days from now. And I want to thank the Regents for the strong budget request you've made and to tell you that we, along with my fellow chancellors, we've only just begun to engage with those processes of trying to describe why we need and why we warrant these forms of support. So we will keep working with the many different stakeholders over the next 5 months to advocate for a substantial investment in this system and in its flagship institution, and to try to help people understand in such a critical way that these investments are investments in the future of our state. Now, squarely and thoughtfully facing these 5 challenges will bring the university onto a stronger and better path for its future. Now, there isn't a simple one-size-fits-all or linear answer to how we can do that. But I will say that effectively pursuing partnerships, both within UW-Madison, because we are a city, not a village unto ourselves, and well beyond our walls, partnerships need to be at the heart of our work and what we do. We have opportunities to improve our education. Our student experience is outstanding. I'm proud of what we are doing. We have a 95% freshman to sophomore year retention rate. But we need to be looking to the future and thinking about what teaching and learning look like, using strategies that actively engage students. And our Center for Teaching, Learning, and Mentoring opened its doors about 18 months ago. And it's bringing partners from across the campus to work together in new ways and to think about pedagogy and what's possible now and in the future. It's already transforming how we support instructors so that they can connect more deeply with our students to ensure a transformative education. Another priority is exploring how we hold fast to 2 values, both of which are centrally and deeply important to our university, and which, if we are candid, can sometimes be in tension with one another. On the one hand, our deep and important commitment to free speech and free expression. And on the other hand, our important commitment to create a strong sense of belonging for all. Both of these are North Stars and must be, and we need to find ways to work together to talk about and to celebrate both of them and to make sure that both of them are lived experiences on our campuses. The results of the recently released free speech survey by the system, combined with our own campus climate survey, as well as lots of other evidence from across the nation, suggest that we have work to do to help students engage across difference. And this challenge can be especially acute around hot-button issues and across political divides. This isn't something people are born knowing how to do. To engage across difference in a civil and constructive way, students need to build the skills and to have opportunities to do that, and to engage in high-quality discussions with one another. Our School of Education has created a discussion project that's both a professional development course and a research project that has taught over 800 instructors across our campus, and it's also been engaging at some sister campuses as well, to help instructors learn how to design and facilitate powerful discussions. Now, its focus is to ensure that all students, regardless of what they're studying, chemistry or political science or anything else, have opportunities to learn how to talk and listen in ways that enhance learning and create a sense of belonging. And so again, it's focused in a much broader way, but those skills that it's teaching also do apply to thinking about communicating across difference. And so we are looking at creating a student deliberation project specifically focused on teaching students with a wide variety of views to talk and listen across difference. And this is an especially important skill in this still polarized time in our nation. On the research side, we already do have at UW-Madison an interdisciplinary and collaborative culture. Indeed, that's one of our institutional strengths. But we need to go further, and we need to build more expansive research partnerships. This work has already started, and one great example is the Dairy Innovation Hub. We have researchers across 3 different UW system campuses talking to one another, mentoring graduate students together, and solving problems that no individual campus could face or solve alone. And we're already seeing the impact in new research projects and new industry partnerships. And we have an even larger scale example of success in this domain of partnerships, and that's our achievement in the life sciences. Madison is one of the 25 markets in the United States, one of the top 25 markets in the United States, in terms of the number of microbiologists, biochemists, and other life sciences workers. And every other city on that graph is at least 3 times our population size. So I mean, think about that. That's amazing. The density of life sciences here in this community, given our total scale and population. This is really quite astonishing. And we got to this place through creating synergies and partnerships that do crisscross industry, academia, and our whole region to create an impressive national hub for life sciences technology. Life sciences here has been growing fast, and it breeds a virtuous cycle where success produces success. With that success, the university is better positioned to compete for research funding, both federal and private, and that helps generate more discovery, more innovation, more commercialization. That in turn attracts great faculty to us. That in turn attracts great students. And those students graduate to become talented members of the life sciences workforce and innovation ecosystem. And many of them stay here because we have a lot going on in that ecosystem. And that in turn attracts life science companies to Madison, which further drives the economy and draws new talent into the university. It's win, 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 win. I could tell you what each of those wins stand for, but I bet you can figure it out yourselves. Here's just one example of the kind of research behind some of this impact. Back in 2018, we successfully recruited Professor Elizabeth Wright, who's shown here meeting a graduate student. She's a biochemist who's helping us reach new frontiers in the biosciences by establishing a national cryo-EM center on our campus. Cryo-EM is like a kind of MRI for molecules that gives incredibly crisp 3D images that can even show individual atoms. Morgridge Institute scientists partnered with the center to produce this image. On the left is the coronavirus, magnified by a traditional electron microscope. On the far right is an illustration of what the coronavirus crown looks like, magnified by cryo-EM. You can see how this technology is literally changing what we're able to see. Scientists say it's the difference between seeing the outline of a building and being able to see the doorknobs. So I want to look ahead and ask this question. What are the next places where we might be able to create this kind of synergy between job creation, industry, research, and transformative education that will allow us to build a truly amazing future for our university and our state? We've identified a group of areas where we're strong on the research side and where there's the potential to do more. And some examples, this is an in-progress list, but they include clean energy and energy storage research, fusion research, climate change and sustainability, quantum science, possibly semiconductors, artificial intelligence and machine learning, especially in relationship to imaging and data analysis. But to reach this next level of excellence in any or all of these areas will take partnership. It will take more strategic efforts to tap into major new sources of federal dollars and our ability to do that internally in ways that are a little bit more nimble than what we've sometimes done in the past. It will take effective and strategic partnerships with industry. It will take forms of support or investment, or at least path clearing from the state. And it will take a kind of working together that we're not always accustomed to across all of these domains. If we can further enhance our innovation ecosystems, not only will our university thrive, but we can continue to be a truly effective engine for the state economy, improve lives for our graduates, partner with our system schools in a variety of ways, and make an even bigger difference for people throughout our great state. And so I hope we can do that together. Now, I want to close with a bit of news about a new program. In 2018, Chancellor Blank stood before you in this room, I believe, and announced a new program called Bucky's Tuition Promise. And that program was going to cover the tuition and fees for students who had a family income below the state median here in Wisconsin. It's a wonderful program. And this shows you something about where these students come from and what that looks like. But there continues to be an opportunity and a responsibility to support our highest needs Wisconsin students in getting access to the UW-Madison experience. One of our recent grads tells the story of coming here and hearing the students in her classes in residence hall talking about what they were doing and that it was sometimes felt unavailable to her. Things like taking an unpaid internship or a summer course. She said, "It seemed like everyone else was having all these experiences, and I was just working and going to class." Now, to be sure, there will always be differences in what different students can afford, and we can't completely solve that. But if we're going to live our values of creating real access and opportunity, we need to do more for our students from Wisconsin's lowest income households. And that's captured well by looking at Pell Grant recipients. So today, I'm happy to make two announcements. First, we are slightly increasing the eligibility requirements for Bucky's Tuition Promise. Instead of reaching families with AGIs, adjusted gross incomes of $60,000 or less, we're increasing that number to $65,000. So somewhat more families will be included. Second, I'm excited to announce the creation of Bucky's Pell Pathway. This program will ensure that our Pell-eligible Wisconsin resident students, I know that's a mouthful, but I think the Pell-eligible Wisconsin resident students will have a pathway to complete their 4-year degree without needing to take on debt to cover their educational expenses. This is an important additional step in creating opportunities and access here at UW-Madison, working to ensure that the amazing resources of our university offer transformative possibilities to talented students from all across our state, regardless of their means. Concretely, what does this mean? We're going a step further than Bucky's Tuition Promise for Wisconsin families who are eligible for federal Pell Grants. For these students, Bucky's Pell Pathway will cover all remaining financial need after their Pell Grant and any other scholarships. This means not only tuition and fees, which is what Bucky's Tuition promises, but also housing, room and board, meals, books, additional funds to allow these students to be involved and engaged in the many life-changing experiences this university offers. It's going to help them reach the full cost of attendance, not just tuition and fees. It's another meaningful step toward improving access and removing barriers for talented students with significant financial need. I do want to be clear that there are not any state dollars involved in funding this new program. We are funding it through a variety of institutional, private, and external sources. And I want to call out and very much appreciate the generosity of a number of our alumni who have given specifically to support students with high financial need and whom I know will continue to support this critical goal. Their recognition of the critical importance of access to higher education as a pathway to opportunity helps to make this program possible. I also very much want to thank our enrollment management team and Derek Kindle and his staff for envisioning this goal with me and figuring out how we could get it done. Now, one of the things that brought me here to UW-Madison was the knowledge that this state, well, pretty average in terms of population size and even in terms of average income, had a flagship university that's anything but average. UW-Madison's not just pretty good, we are outstanding. I heard recently from one of our alums who now lives thousands of miles away but still really cares about the place, and who said to me, "You know, you might be able to make an argument that School X has academics that are just as good as ours. And you might be able to make an argument that School Y has athletics that are just as good as ours while still caring about the whole student. You might be able to make an argument that School Z has a city that's just as good. but you'd be hard-pressed to find another school that brings all those extraordinary assets together. This university is extraordinary. It's one of our state's most precious and best tools for making a difference in creating positive futures. But it is also fragile. Without continued investment and even increasing investment from the state, without a willingness to give us the flexibility to be nimble and seize opportunity, without the support of the UW system to preserve and build our excellence, we risk a slow decline. There is an amazing vision of our future, where education, research, and outreach all flourish in an innovation ecosystem built on partnerships that are broad and deep to the benefit of our students, our university, and our whole state. This is an achievable future, but it's not an inevitable one, and it depends on all of us. It's my job to bring people together to create and nourish that ecosystem, and I look forward to working with all of you and the many people we serve to do exactly that. So thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I would be glad to take any questions that you might have. Thank you.